Long before European explorers set foot on Canadian soil, the land of Canada was home to a vast array of Indigenous peoples. These First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities had lived on the land for thousands of years, developing rich cultures, languages, and traditions deeply connected to the natural world. The Indigenous peoples of Canada were not a monolithic group but rather a collection of diverse nations, each with its own distinct language, customs, and governance structures. From the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in the east to the Plains Cree in the west, these societies thrived in harmony with the land, developing complex social, economic, and spiritual systems. The arrival of European explorers in the late 15th and early 16th centuries marked the beginning of a new beginning in the history of Canada. These explorers, driven by the desire for wealth and new trade routes, made contact with Indigenous peoples, leading to the exchange of goods, ideas, and, unfortunately, diseases. The impact of these encounters would shape the future of the land that would become Canada. The 17th century saw the establishment of European colonies in what is now Canada. The French were among the first to settle, establishing the colony of New France along the St. Lawrence River. The French presence in North America was primarily driven by the fur trade, which became the economic backbone of New France. The colony's capital, Quebec City, founded in 1608 by Samuel de Champlain, became a center of French culture and influence in the New World. As the French expanded their territory, they encountered other European powers, most notably the British. The British established their own colonies along the Atlantic coast, including Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. The rivalry between France and Britain in North America grew over the years, leading to a series of conflicts that would shape the future of Canada. One of the most significant of these conflicts was the 7 Years' War, which began in 1756. The war was a global conflict that saw the French and British empires clash on multiple continents, but its outcome would have a profound impact on the future of Canada. The British victory in 1763 led to the Treaty of Paris, which saw France cede much of its North American territory to Britain, including Canada. The British colonies in North America faced a range of challenges in the 19th century, including economic instability, threats from the United States, and the need for effective governance. The idea of uniting the British colonies into a single federation started gaining momentum in the 1860s, driven by the need for a stronger defense against potential American aggression and the desire for economic stability. The concept of confederation was championed by leaders such as Sir John A. Macdonald, George Etienne Cartier, and George Brown, who saw the benefits of a united Canada. The process of confederation culminated in the Charlottetown Conference of 1864, where representatives from the colonies of Canada, now Ontario and Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia met to discuss the terms of union. The conference was a turning point in Canadian history, as it laid the groundwork for the creation of a new nation. On July 1, 1867, the British North America Act was passed, officially creating the Dominion of Canada. The Act united the provinces of Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia into a single country, with Ottawa as its capital. Sir John A. Macdonald became Canada's first Prime Minister, and the country began the process of nation-building, expanding westward and incorporating new provinces and territories over time. The years following Confederation were marked by the expansion of Canada from a small cluster of provinces in the east to a nation stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This expansion was driven by a combination of economic opportunity, strategic concerns, and the desire to create a transcontinental nation. One major challenge of this westward expansion was the negotiation of treaties with Indigenous peoples, who had lived on the land for millennia. The Canadian government sought to acquire land for settlement and development, often through treaties that were not always honored or fully understood by the Indigenous populations. The legacy of these treaties continues to be a source of tension and reconciliation efforts in Canada today. The construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway in the 1880s was a monumental achievement that connected the eastern provinces with the western territories. The railway facilitated the movement of people and goods across the country, helping to fuel economic growth and settlement in the West. The completion of the railway in 1885 symbolized Canada's emergence as a transcontinental nation. However, westward expansion also brought conflict and challenges. The Northwest Rebellion of 1885, led by Métis leader Louis Riel, was a response to the Canadian government's policies and the displacement of Indigenous and Métis communities. Though the rebellion was suppressed, it highlighted the deep divisions and tensions within the young nation. The early 20th century saw Canada emerge as an important player on the world stage, particularly through its involvement in the First and Second World Wars. During the First World War 1914 to 1918, Canada, as part of the British Empire, played a significant role on the Western Front. The Canadian Expeditionary Force earned a reputation for bravery and effectiveness, particularly in battles such as Vimy Ridge, where Canadian troops achieved a significant victory. The cost of the war, however, was immense. More than 60,000 Canadians lost their lives, and many more were wounded. The war also brought about significant social and economic changes, including the advancement of women's rights, as women entered the workforce in large numbers to support the war effort. Canada's contributions to the Second World War, 1939 to 1945, further solidified its status as a significant military power. Canadian forces were involved in key operations, including the Normandy invasion, D-Day, and the liberation of the Netherlands. The war also led to Canada's increased independence from Britain, as the country began to assert its own foreign policy and diplomatic initiatives. After the war, came a time of rapid growth and transformation for Canada. The economy boomed, fueled by industrial expansion and the development of natural resources. The country also experienced significant social changes, including the expansion of social welfare programs, the rise of multiculturalism, and the growing recognition of Indigenous rights. One of the defining features of post-war Canada was its commitment to peacekeeping and international diplomacy. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, Canada became known for its role in mediating international conflicts and promoting peace.